Hey, how's it going guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to be checking out a brand new RPG called Torment Tides of Numenera, now available for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. This game is actually one of the most well-funded Kickstarter games ever, mainly thanks to the great reputation the previous game, Planescape Torment, had earned for the franchise. So let's start by talking a bit about the story, as understanding the lore is a major part of enjoying the game. Your adventure takes place in the 9th world, a future like Earth, and when I say future, we are talking like 1 billion years in the future, literally, which opens up a lot of completely bizarre and strange possibilities throughout the game. We take part in the adventure as one of the castaway vessels from the being called the Changing God, which is a man who discovered how to cheat death by transferring his consciousness to a new body. However, he soon realized that when he left one vessel, they didn't simply become hollow, the empty bodies were given a new consciousness. Also, by escaping death, the Changing God awoke a creature known as the Sorrow, whose mission is to bring an end to the cheater of death and all of his vessels, which, you guessed it, includes us. And this is where our adventure begins. Now let's talk about the gameplay. It's a very classical choice-based RPG, which growing up I was never really too interested in. Like many people that age, any game that required that much reading was not on my Christmas list. But seeing how much hype and what a large fan base this game had even previous to its launch, I thought I'd give it a shot, and I'm quite glad I did. I'd also like to thank the guys over at Techland and Inxile Entertainment for sending a copy my way. I really do appreciate it. Anyway, let's get back to talking about the gameplay. As we mentioned before, the most characteristic aspect of the game is the choice-based dialogues. They can lead to great consequences depending on the options we choose, which is definitely a breath of fresh air in a day and age where so many games give us a false sense of choice. What I'm referring to by this is that a lot of games allow us to choose from different options, but ultimately have no major effect over the story whatsoever. However, in Tides of Numenera, almost every choice we make has an impact one way or another, sometimes causing our companions to part ways with us, other times it can be to avoid battles or conflict, and in some cases even death. So it makes us feel very much like we are in control of our adventure, which leads me to the next point, which are the stat pools. We use the stat pools to influence the probability and effectiveness when making choices and in combat. They're divided into 3 different stats: might, speed, and intellect, each used in the different types of choices. So what actually happens when we drain all of our stat points? Well, we have various ways of recharging them, such as consumable items, ciphers, and sleeping at inns. Other choices we make throughout the game can also have a change in the tide. And by the game's lore, the tides are an unseen force that affects all inhabitants of the game world, including the player. Each of the 5 is represented by its own color, and each stands for different emotion, convictions, and acts. Every single action or choice you make in the game changes your relation to the particular tides. Whether you are driven by passion, empathy, or greed, the tidal effects accumulate and shape your legacy. Going back to the stat pools, each of our companions will actually have their own stat pools to use from. We don't all drain from the same stat pool. So now on the topic of companions, it's worth mentioning there are a total of 6 different recruitable companions throughout the game, of which we can have 3 accompany us at any time, each of which having their own unique abilities and characteristics. There are also 3 classes in the game. First, we have the Nanos, which are the sorcerers, the glaives, which are like the elite warriors who specialize in using weapons and martial art, and finally we have the jacks, and as the name suggests, they are jacks of all trades. So let's very quickly talk a bit about the crisis, which are the battles in the game. So it's pretty much what you'd expect from a tactical RPG. Each of our characters will move on a turn-based system. When on their turn, they can either move, attack, use an item, use an ability. The main thing that differentiates this one is that when you go to attack, you can choose how much of your stat pools you want to use in that attack. The more stat pools you invest in the attack, the more chances you have of actually hitting the enemy, as well as how much damage or how efficient that attack's going to be. Most of the battles can actually be avoided by making the right choices. In some occasions, even in mid-combat, you'll be given the chance to have a dialogue with the enemy and actually persuade your way out of the battle. Now, if you fuck up and you fall in combat, unlike if we die in the outside world by making a bad choice, we will not actually get game over. We'll be sent to the dreamlike world, the place inside our own brain, which we started the game at. And there are a few things we can sort of do on our way back into the living world again, but I don't really want to spoil for you every single aspect of the game. That's not necessary. Now, last but not least, we're going to talk about the ciphers. These are one-use only items that can do anything from burning your enemies to summoning aliens to aid you in combat. However, if you carry too many and exceed our current cipher limit, it can lead to some passive negative effects on our character, which can be pretty devastating. So it definitely seems like they haven't let down the long-time fans of the game. However, for newcomers to the genre such as myself, it is very overwhelming at the beginning with all the new concepts we need to embrace. Even with the very detailed in-game tutorial pop-ups, you need to be willing to put in effort to understand what's going on and how some of the mechanics actually work. As well as, in my personal opinion, the combat combats do seem a little bit repetitive as far as I've played. However, that does seem the sort of standard for the genre, so that's definitely only my personal opinion from an outsider point of view. Another negative aspect of the game I should mention is that some console users have reported some frame rate issues dropping to even 20 FPS. But with that said, if you are willing to give it a shot, this game definitely does not disappoint. After a while playing, I found myself completely hooked and immersed in the beautiful world of Numenera as I became more and more intrigued by all the bizarre stuff happening pretty much everywhere you go. So to end off the review, I would say if you're a fan of the genre and you just really like to choose your own adventure sort of games, I would say go for it. This game is going to be perfect for you. It's absolutely amazing. However, if you're a bit of a newcomer to the genre such as myself, I would definitely recommend watching enough gameplays and reviews of the game to make sure you know exactly what you're getting into before you bite the bullet. But if you are planning on getting into the genre, this definitely does seem like the one to go for. It gives you a very enjoyable overall experience. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe for more content, and we'll see you next time.